Certainly, here's a longer, realistic story as if someone is sharing their experience. It was a chilly winter evening when I found myself standing in front of the house I hadn't visited in years. The memories flooded back like a tidal wave, taking me on a journey through time. This was the house where I grew up, a place filled with both joy and sorrow. As I walked up the cracked pathway to the front door, I couldn't help but notice how much the neighborhood had changed. The old oak tree in our front yard had been replaced by a new swing set, and the familiar faces of our neighbors had been replaced by strangers. I took a deep breath and pushed open the creaky door. The smell of my mother's cooking hit me instantly, and tears welled up in my eyes. She had always been an amazing cook, and her recipes were etched into my memory. I walked into the living room, and there it was, the old, worn-out sofa where I used to curl up with a book on lazy Sunday afternoons. The room was filled with photographs capturing moments from my childhood, my graduation, and family vacations. Each picture held a story, a memory, a piece of my life. I made my way to the kitchen, where I found my father sitting at the table sipping a cup of tea. His hair had turned silver over the years, but his eyes still held the same warmth and kindness that I remembered. We exchanged a smile, a silent acknowledgement of the years that had passed. Over dinner, we reminisced about the past. My parents shared stories of their youth, and I shared tales of my adventures in the big city where I now lived. It felt surreal to be back in the house where I had spent my formative years, where every nook and cranny held a cherished memory. As the night grew darker, I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood. The streets were eerily quiet, and the houses seemed to have lost their vibrancy. The park where I used to play as a child was now overgrown with weeds, and the swings creaked in the wind, a haunting reminder of the passage of time. I couldn't help but feel a sense of melancholy as I walked through the familiar streets. The once bustling town center was now a ghost town, with closed shops and deserted streets. The cafe where I used to hang out with my friends had been replaced by a trendy new restaurant, and the old library had been converted into a boutique. I continued my walk, passing by my old school. The building looked smaller than I remembered, and the playground had been replaced by a parking lot. I sat on a bench and watched as children, the next generation, played on the swings and ran around with boundless energy. It was a poignant reminder that life moves on, and we must move with it. The next morning, I bid my parents farewell and headed back to the city. As I drove away from the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had left a piece of my heart behind. My hometown would always be a part of me, a place where my roots ran deep and memories were etched into every corner. As I merged onto the highway, I couldn't help but smile. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but I knew that I carried with me the stories of my past, the lessons I had learned, and the love of my family. And with that, I looked forward to the next chapter in my ever-evolving journey through life, carrying the essence of my hometown with me, a reminder of where I came from and the path that led me to where I am today.